So, of course, each case needs to be assessed in its own merits. So I don't think we can talk of a case model for the other aids notified to us. What I can say perhaps is on the commitments that, of course, have been part of the discussion so far with Lufthansa. This is a general concept in the state aid temporary framework, which, as you know, was amended on 8th of May, introducing the recapitalization possibility, and this was done in consultation with member states. In the state aid temporary framework, there is a point which envisages the possibility for the Commission to require additional commitments from member states to preserve effective competition in the market in case of large recapitalizations of more than 250 million euros. This is, I have already had the occasion to say it last week, I believe. This is, of course, very important to preserve the level playing field in the single market, also post-coronavirus crisis, because there is a substantive difference in nature between recapitalizations and loans, for example. The same amount of aid granted by a member state through the entry into the capital of a company gives the beneficiary a much stronger position on the market. It does not increase its debt exposure position, and it gives the beneficiary the possibility to be supported by a very strong shareholder. And this explains the difference in conditionalities between the two types of aid. Of course, then it's a case-by-case assessment. Just maybe to mention that for the moment there is no notification from Germany and therefore no decision on Lufthansa yet. Once notified by Germany, the Commission will, of course, assess the elements of the German package of aid before taking a formal decision in line with the requirements of the state aid temporary framework.
Can I have a quick follow-up?
Yes, Veronika, go ahead.
So, but is the Commission sort of working on guidelines concerning government assistance for companies, for example, airlines, or is it too complicated to set out guidelines in this area?
Well, we have, under state aid rules, we have general guidelines applying to aviation in normal non-coronavirus situations. So those, of course, remain fully valid. We have actually recently published on DG Comp's website a fact sheet explaining the application of rules also to aviation. So this is a point of reference also for the member states, which explained various possibilities under the state aid rules. And in addition, the temporary framework, of course, allows support to all sectors, clearly also to aviation. The Commission is fully aware of the difficulty that the aviation sector is facing, and we are working with member states to find solutions in line with EU rules. Having said this, the applicable rules are there in the temporary framework, and the one I was mentioning on commitments is there and applies equally to all member states, of course.
Thank you, Ariana. Do we have further questions related to competition for Ariana? I see a series of hands raised. Keep your hand raised only if it's for Ariana. Hans-Uwe, question for Ariana. Go ahead.
As we know, also Air France has been supported by the government by, I think, 7 billion of euros. Does the same regulation also apply for Air France? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question, which allows me to clarify one point. As I said, the Commission applies equally state aid rules to all member states. At the same time, each case has to be assessed on its own facts and merits. Indeed, on the 4th of May, we have approved a 7 billion French aid measure consisting in a state guarantee on loans and a subordinated shareholder loan to Air France to provide urgent liquidity support to the company that was needing it for the coronavirus outbreak. These measures are debt instruments, fully in line with relevant conditions under the temporary framework. They do not provide capital support to Air France. So, as I was mentioning before, there's a substantive difference in nature between a loan and a recapitalization, and this is why there are different conditions in the temporary framework that apply to these types of measures. If France, for example, decides in the future to convert certain debt instruments in full or in part into equity, this, of course, would have to be re-notified as a recapitalization to the Commission for assessment and clearly approval, and then would be subject to more stringent conditions, as there is, as I was saying, the substantive difference in nature between the two.